Welcome to Black History for Sleep. Tonight we gently step into a world that's often forgotten, but never erased. You are a young, newly arrived African, disoriented and afraid, thrust onto the brutal sugar plantations of Jamaica in 1791. As the air thickens with memory, as the world outside goes quiet, I invite you to close your eyes, breathe deeply, and if this kind of deep, immersive storytelling moves you, please subscribe to Black History for Sleep. We bring the past to your pillow, one quiet, powerful story at a time. Now, let us begin tonight's journey into the harrowing reality of why you wouldn't survive as an enslaved person in 1791 Jamaica. The year is 1791. The sun, a relentless eye in the cerulean sky, beats down on the island of Jamaica. You are here, not by choice, but by force. The memory of the vast, indifferent ocean still sways within you, a phantom rocking that never quite leaves your bones. Days, weeks, perhaps months. You lost count on that dark vessel, a floating tomb where breath was a luxury and the future a terrifying void. Now, your feet, raw and aching, press against the red earth of this foreign land. The air is thick, not with the familiar scents of your homeland, the damp earth after a rain, the smoke of cooking fires, the distant call of an elder, but with something acrid and sweet, a cloying smell that will soon become synonymous with your suffering, the smell of sugar cane. You are standing or perhaps kneeling amidst a throng of others, their faces mirroring your own confusion and despair. Many speak languages you do not understand. A cacophony of fear and bewilderment hangs in the air, punctuated by harsh, unfamiliar commands barked in a tongue that grates against your ears. This is Jamaica, a place of immense beauty and unimaginable cruelty, a place where human life has been reduced to a commodity, measured in rows of green stalks and gallons of sweet, blood-stained rum. You are no longer a person with a name, a family, a history. You are a new Negro, a term spat with contempt, a raw piece of human property to be broken and molded to fit the demands of this brutal system. The auction block, if you passed through it, was a blur of hands prodding, eyes assessing, voices bartering. Your nakedness was not merely physical, it was a stripping away of identity, of dignity, of all that made you, you. Now, you are on a plantation. The name of it, if you hear it, means nothing to you. What matters are the immediate, terrifying realities. Towering stalks of sugarcane stretch as far as the eye can see, a green labyrinth that promises endless labor. Beyond them, a collection of rough-hewn buildings, the great house, distant and imposing, the sugar mill with its churning machinery, and rows of small, flimsy huts that will become your new, inadequate home. The first challenge to your survival is the sheer shock to your body. You have been torn from your climate, your diet, your rhythm of life. The heat here is oppressive, a humid blanket that never lifts. Your clothes, if you still have any, are thin and ill-suited. Thirst is a constant companion, a dry rasp at the back of your throat. The food, when it comes, is meager and unfamiliar, often boiled plantains, yams, or cornmeal, barely enough to sustain the grueling labor that awaits you. Your body, already weakened by the journey, begins to ache in ways you never knew possible. Every muscle protests, every joint screams. You are assigned to a gang, likely the first gang, if you are young and strong. This is where the hardest labor is performed, reserved for those deemed most capable of enduring the back-breaking work. You are given a machete, heavy and unwieldy in your untrained hands. The overseer, a white man often accompanied by a black driver, an enslaved person compelled to enforce the master's will, watches with unblinking eyes. Their gazes are devoid of compassion, filled only with expectation and a chilling readiness to punish. The first task is the cane field. You are shown how to cut the cane, a precise, relentless motion. Swing the machete low, severing the thick stalk close to the ground, then chop off the leafy top. Repeat, and repeat, hour after hour. The sun beats down, a hammer on your skull. Sweat stings your eyes, runs in rivulets down your back. The cane stalks are sharp, their leaves like razors, leaving small cuts and nicks on your exposed skin. The ground is uneven, sometimes muddy, sometimes hard-baked. You stumble, you falter, but you cannot stop. To stop means the whip. You see it, feel it, before you understand it. The crack of the lash is a sound that will forever haunt your waking hours and invade your deepest slumber. It falls on the back of someone who hesitated, who paused, who stumbled too long. The scream that follows is not a scream of pain alone, but of humiliation, of terror, of a spirit being slowly, systematically crushed. You learn with terrifying swiftness that compliance, even if it means destroying your own body, is your only shield against this immediate, brutal violence. The working day stretches from dawn until dusk, sometimes longer during the harvest season. There are no breaks for rest, only brief moments to gulp down water. The pace is relentless, driven by the overseer's shouted commands and the omnipresent threat of the whip. Your hands, soft just weeks ago, are now raw, blistered and calloused. Your back feels as if it will snap. Your legs burn, your head throbs. As the days bleed into weeks, a new set of challenges emerge. Disease, rampant on these crowded, unsanitary plantations, preys on weakened bodies. Malaria, yellow fever, dysentery, yaws, these are not distant threats, but ever-present dangers. You see others sicken, their bodies racked with fever, their eyes dull with despair. Some vanish, carried away to a shallow grave, their names forgotten almost before the earth settles over them. The fear of illness, of the debilitating weakness that could lead to even harsher punishment, becomes another layer of dread. The living conditions offer little respite. Your hut is small, perhaps shared with several others. It is made of wattle and daub, with a thatched roof, offering minimal protection from the elements. There is no privacy, no comfort. The earth floor is hard and cold. You sleep on a rough mat if you are lucky, or directly on the ground. The air inside is thick with the smell of unwashed bodies, of dampness, of fear. Mealtime is a hurried affair. You are given a small plot of land, often called a provision ground, where you are expected to grow your own food in the few hours of rest you are allowed. Sundays, and perhaps a few hours on Saturday afternoons. But you are exhausted. Your energy is sapped by the cane fields. The soil might be poor. Drought or pests could destroy your meager crops. So, hunger is another constant companion, a dull ache in your stomach that gnaws at your resolve. You learn to eat quickly, to savor every bite, for you do not know when the next meal will truly satisfy. Beyond the physical trials, the psychological torment begins to wear on your spirit. You are constantly watched, constantly reminded of your lack of freedom. Every aspect of your life is controlled: when you work, what you eat, where you sleep, even with whom you can form connections. Families are torn apart without a second thought, mothers separated from children, husbands from wives, sold to different plantations for profit. You witness these acts of brutal indifference, and a cold fear settles in your heart. You learn to build walls around your emotions, to numb yourself to the pain of others, because the alternative is to feel it all, and that would surely break you. The language barrier is a formidable obstacle. You struggle to understand commands, to communicate your needs, to connect with others who might share your plight, but not your tongue. The overseers and drivers speak in quick, often aggressive tones, and your inability to comprehend fully can be mistaken for defiance, leading to swift and harsh punishment. You pick up words slowly, piecing together meaning from gestures, from tone, from the consequences of misunderstanding. The local Creole, a mix of African languages and English, slowly begins to form in your mind, but it is a difficult and painful process of assimilation. The relentless cycle of labor, hunger, and fear begins to erode your sense of self. You are no longer just tired, you are bone-weary in your very soul. You are not just hungry, you are malnourished, your body betraying you. You are not just afraid, you are constantly, acutely aware of the fragility of your existence. The desire to simply lie down and never rise again, to surrender to the vast emptiness, can become overwhelming. This is the insidious work of slavery, not just to exploit your labor, but to extinguish your spirit. Escape, the thought flickers like a desperate flame, but the reality is daunting. Where would you go? The island is small, the white population vigilant. There are few places to hide, and even fewer friendly faces. The dense, unforgiving jungle, the bush, offers some refuge, but it is filled with its own dangers: snakes, insects, starvation. And the consequences of capture are terrifyingly clear: brutal floggings, iron collars, branding, or even death, displayed as a warning to others. You hear whispers of the Maroons, communities of escaped enslaved people who live in the mountains, fiercely independent. But their world is distant, perilous to reach, and their survival is a testament to extraordinary courage and unity, qualities you are only just beginning to grasp in this new, terrifying reality. You watch the sun rise, a slow, indifferent climb, signaling another day of toil. You watch it set, a welcome relief, but only a brief one, for the night brings its own terrors, the memories, the whispers of fear, the fleeting, unquiet sleep. This is not living, it is merely existing, a brutal testament to the human capacity for endurance and the chilling depth of human cruelty. The chances of truly surviving, of thriving, of seeing your homeland again, feel impossibly small, a dying ember in the vast darkness of this new, terrifying world. The rhythmic thud of a pestle against a mortar echoes faintly from a nearby hut, a sound that, in your village, meant women preparing the evening meal, their voices low and comforting. Here, it is just another sound swallowed by the vast, oppressive quiet of the plantation night. You lie on your rough mat, the scent of damp earth and unwashed bodies a constant presence. Sleep, when it comes, is shallow and fractured, haunted by the day's brutal images and the chilling anticipation of the next. Your body, despite its exhaustion, is a canvas of aches and pains. The small cuts from the cane leaves sting. The blisters on your hands throb. Your muscles, unused to such sustained, brutal labor, spasm and cramp. You try to find a comfortable position, but there is none. Every shift of your weight brings a fresh wave of discomfort. You remember the soft earth of your village, the woven mats, the communal warmth of your family sleeping nearby. That memory, once a source of comfort, now sharpens the edges of your present suffering. The overseer's dog barks somewhere in the distance, a sharp, intrusive sound that shatters the fragile peace of the night. You flinch, your body tensing, a reflex born of constant fear. Even in sleep, your mind remains on alert, waiting for the crack of the whip, the shout, the sudden invasion. Freedom, a word you once understood as simply being, now feels like a distant star, impossibly far, impossibly bright. You recall the faces of your family, your mother's gentle smile, your father's strong hands, the playful chatter of your younger siblings. The memory brings a fresh wave of grief, a silent, internal wail that you dare not voice. Where are they? Are they safe? Do they wonder about you? The questions are unanswerable, their uncertainty a new kind of torment. You are alone, utterly, profoundly alone, in a land that cares nothing for your past, only for your labor. The meager food you consumed hours ago offers little sustenance. Your stomach rumbles faintly, a hollow echo. You dream of rich stews, of fresh fruits from the trees of your village, of the communal feasts where laughter mingled with the scent of roasted meat. When you wake, the hunger is still there, a dull, persistent ache that will not leave you. The air inside the hut is still and heavy, muggy despite the late hour. You can hear the shallow breathing of the others sharing your cramped space, a collective sigh of exhaustion. They are strangers, yet you are bound by a shared horror, a shared silence. Sometimes, a low sob escapes from one of them, quickly stifled, a testament to the pain held within. You understand that sob. You feel it too, a tremor beneath your own hardened exterior. The sun will rise again soon. You know it instinctively, even without seeing the first hint of light. The rhythm of this brutal existence is already imprinted on your body, on your spirit. The brief respite of darkness will end, and the fields will call again. The machete, dull from yesterday's work, waits. The relentless cutting, the back-breaking stoop, the watchful eyes of the overseer all await. Survival, you realize, is not just about staying alive physically. It is about protecting the flickering ember of who you once were. It is about finding a way to endure the indignity, the dehumanization, without letting it consume you entirely. But how? How do you hold on to your humanity when every waking moment is designed to strip it away? You hear the faint chirping of crickets outside, a natural sound that in a different life would have brought peace. Here, it is just background noise to the thumping of your own exhausted heart. The heavy silence of the night presses in, a suffocating blanket. You turn on your side, trying to find some semblance of comfort, some brief escape from the crushing weight of your reality. Sleep finally claims you, a shallow, restless slumber filled with fragmented images. The vastness of the ocean, the sharp gleam of the machete, the contorted face of a fellow sufferer. But even in sleep, there is no true rest, no escape from the relentless grip of this new, terrifying life. You are in Jamaica, 1791, and survival here is a daily miracle, a constant negotiation with pain, fear, and the enduring shadow of death. The morning arrives not with a gentle dawn, but with the harsh clang of a bell or the piercing call of a conch shell. It rips through your shallow sleep, pulling you back to the brutal reality of the cane fields. There is no time to linger, no moment for quiet contemplation. You must rise immediately or face the swift wrath of the driver or overseer. Your body groans in protest, every muscle screaming from yesterday's labor. You push yourself up, your limbs stiff and protesting. The early morning air is still heavy with humidity, but without the sun's direct heat, it offers a brief, fleeting coolness. You join the trickle of other enslaved people emerging from their huts, a silent procession heading towards the communal cooking area for the meager morning meal. It's often just boiled cornmeal or a piece of yam, swallowed quickly, without enjoyment. There is no time for conversation, no space for comfort. The focus is on survival, on preparing the body for another day of unceasing toil. You walk towards the cane fields, the machete heavy in your hand. The dew still clings to the broad leaves, a deceptive sparkle that belies their sharpness. The air fills with the familiar, cloying scent of sugar, a smell that now evokes dread rather than sweetness. The overseer is already there, mounted on his horse, surveying the lines of workers with an eagle eye. The driver, a black man chosen for his ruthlessness, paces back and forth, the whip coiled loosely in his hand, a constant visible threat. The rhythm of the day quickly asserts itself, the swing of the machete, the crunch of the cane stalk, the rhythmic thud as the cut cane is piled into bundles. Your movements are becoming more practiced, but no less painful. The sun begins its slow ascent, its rays intensifying with each passing hour, beating down on your exposed back and head. Sweat pours from you, stinging your eyes, soaking your thin clothing. Mid-morning the thirst becomes unbearable. Your mouth is dry, your throat raspy. Water is brought sometimes, but it's never enough, just enough to tantalize and then leave you wanting more. You learn to conserve your saliva, to swallow hard, to ignore the insistent demands of your parched body. The work is not just physically demanding, it is mentally draining. The monotony is crushing. Hour after hour, day after day, the same endless rows of cane. Your mind, desperate for escape, tries to wander, to retrieve memories of home, of laughter, of a time before this nightmare. But the constant vigilance required, the fear of making a mistake, of slowing down, pulls your thoughts back to the immediate, terrifying present. You observe the others. Some are older, their bodies gnarled and scarred by years of this brutal existence. Their faces are etched with resignation, but also with a strange, deep resilience. You see moments, fleeting and unspoken, of shared understanding. A glance, a nod, a small act of kindness, like someone subtly helping another with a heavy bundle. These small gestures are like tiny beacons in the overwhelming darkness, reminders that even here humanity persists. But you also see the broken ones, those whose spirits have been utterly crushed. Their eyes are vacant, their movements sluggish. They move like automatons, their bodies performing the work, but their minds seemingly absent. You fear becoming one of them, to lose yourself so completely that nothing remains but an empty shell. This fear, paradoxically, fuels a desperate spark of defiance within you, a silent vow to hold on to something, anything, that is still yours. The midday sun is a furnace. The air shimmers above the fields. The dust, kicked up by countless feet, coats your skin, mingles with your sweat, forms a gritty film on your teeth. The overseer, seemingly unaffected by the heat, continues his rounds, his voice a constant grating presence. The whip cracks again, a sharp, sickening sound that reverberates through the field, and a wave of silent dread passes through the workers. It serves as a stark reminder, you are property, and your body is not your own. A small cut on your arm, ignored yesterday, is now inflamed, perhaps infected. There is no medicine, no true care. You try to clean it with a bit of water, but you know it could worsen. Simple injuries, if left untreated, can become serious, leading to fever, disability, or even death. The constant threat of infection, of gangrene, adds another layer of anxiety to your already fragile existence. You see others with missing fingers, twisted limbs, blinded eyes, the grim trophies of sugar production. As the sun begins its slow descent, painting the sky in fiery hues, the work continues unabated. The pace does not slacken. Your exhaustion is profound, a bone-deep weariness that penetrates to your very core. Every swing of the machete is an act of supreme effort. Every step feels like walking through thick mud. Your body screams for rest, for an end to this torment. Finally, as twilight descends and the air cools slightly, the bell clangs again, signaling the end of the working day. But the day is not truly over. You must gather your tools, perhaps help load the cut cane onto carts pulled by oxen. Then, the long, slow walk back to the huts, your body bent, your steps heavy. Evenings offer little comfort. There is the arduous task of preparing your own food on your small provision ground, if you have one. If not, you rely on the meager rations distributed by the plantation. You cook over a small fire, the smoke stinging your eyes. The food, once again, is barely enough. You see families, those who have managed to stay together, huddled quietly in their huts. There are no boisterous conversations, no joyous singing. The energy for such things has been drained by the day's labor. There are quiet murmurs, the soft cries of children, the sounds of exhaustion. You long for human connection, for a kind word, a shared glance of understanding that goes beyond the shared terror. Some evenings, you hear the distant sound of drums, a faint rhythmic pulsing that hints at something forbidden, something resilient. It is the sound of defiance, of connection to a past that cannot be entirely erased. You listen, your heart yearning, even as fear whispers warnings of the brutal consequences if such gatherings are discovered. The threat of sexual violence hangs heavy in the air for women. You see it in the wary eyes of the young women around you, the way they avert their gaze from the overseers, the silent terror in their posture. The bodies of enslaved women are considered property, exploited for labor and pleasure without consent. The thought is a sickening knot in your stomach, a reminder of the ultimate vulnerability of your existence here. As you lie down in your hut, the darkness presses in. You are not just physically tired, your spirit is bruised, battered. The sheer impossibility of escape, the relentless nature of the work, the constant dehumanization, it all converges into a profound sense of hopelessness. How can you survive a life where every sunrise brings another day of torment, and every sunset brings only brief, unquiet rest? The question hangs in the humid air, unanswered, a heavy weight on your chest. You close your eyes, praying for unconsciousness, for oblivion, for a moment of peace that this world refuses to grant. The weeks stretch into months, each day a relentless repetition of the last. Your body, against all odds, begins to adapt, a testament to the astonishing resilience of the human form. The raw blisters harden into calluses. The persistent aches become a dull background hum. You learn to move with a grim efficiency, to conserve energy, to endure. But this adaptation comes at a cost, a deeper hardening of your spirit, a slow erosion of hope. The rhythm of the plantation becomes your new, unwanted beat. The clang of the bell, the crack of the whip, the rustle of cane leaves, the distant roar of the sugar mill. These sounds form the soundtrack of your existence. You begin to understand the Creole, the mixture of languages, picking up phrases, understanding commands, communicating in terse, necessary exchanges. This newfound understanding is a double-edged sword. It allows for some connection, but also exposes you more fully to the harsh realities of the white world around you. You learn the subtle power dynamics within the enslaved community. There are the drivers, black men often given some meager privileges and harsh duties, caught between two worlds, hated by many, feared by all. There are those who have been on the plantation for years, their wisdom etched in their weary eyes, their knowledge of the land and its plants a quiet form of resistance. And there are the new arrivals like you, still raw, still carrying the fresh wounds of displacement. You learn about resistance not through overt rebellion, though whispers of such things, quickly silenced, sometimes reach your ears, but through subtle acts of defiance. A slower pace of work when the overseer isn't looking, a tool subtly broken, a feigned illness. These are small acts, dangerous ones, but they are ways to reclaim a tiny sliver of agency, to say, without words, I am still here, and I will not be completely broken. You learn to read the moods of the overseer, to predict the moments of greatest danger, to make yourself invisible when necessary. The relationships you form, however fragile, become vital. A shared glance across the fields, a quiet word of encouragement, a small act of solidarity during the evening. These are the threads that weave a thin tapestry of connection. You learn the importance of community, of shared suffering, of finding strength in the quiet presence of others who understand, without words, the depths of your despair. You might share a meager meal, a rare moment of quiet storytelling from your distant homelands, keeping alive fragmented memories of who you were. But the harshness never truly recedes. The brutal floggings are a constant threat, their memory seared into your mind. You witness the public humiliations, the tortures designed not just to punish, but to break the will, to instill fear so profound it paralyzes. You see bodies marked by violence, scars telling stories of untold pain. This violence is arbitrary, unpredictable, designed to keep you in a state of perpetual terror, to ensure obedience. The hunger is a constant companion. Your body is perpetually on the brink of starvation, sustained by just enough calories to perform the back-breaking labor. You might dream of food, of abundance, of the meals from your childhood that now seem like a distant, impossible fantasy. Your teeth ache, your gums bleed, your skin is dry and flaky, all signs of severe malnutrition. Disease continues its relentless march. Malaria fevers flare and subside, leaving you weak and drained. Dysentery sweeps through the quarters, carrying away the old and the young. There is little access to medicine, only folk remedies, often inadequate against the virulent diseases of this new climate. You watch as people sicken and die around you, a constant reminder of your own mortality, of how easily your life could be extinguished. The nights offer little true rest. The air is still heavy, the hut cramped and hot. Mosquitoes hum incessantly, their bites leaving itchy welts that can turn into festering sores. You lie awake for long stretches, your mind replaying the day's hardships, anticipating tomorrow's. Sometimes the sounds of suffering from other huts, a cough, a moan, a stifled sob, remind you that you are not alone in your quiet torment. The sexual exploitation of women is a dark, pervasive undercurrent. You see the fear in the eyes of young girls, the quiet shame of women who have been brutalized. The planters, their overseers, and even some white artisans treat enslaved women as commodities, their bodies available for abuse. There is no protection, no recourse, only the desperate hope of avoiding attention, of remaining invisible. The fear for yourself and for any women you might come to care for is a heavy burden on your soul. You see children born into this system, their cries echoing in the quarters. They are born into bondage, their future already predetermined, marked by the same chains that bind their parents. You witness the heartbreak of mothers whose children are sold away, their wails of despair tearing at the fabric of your own heart. This is the ultimate cruelty. Not just the theft of your own life, but the theft of future generations, perpetuating the cycle of suffering. The whispers of escape, of maroon communities in the distant mountains, become more urgent, more alluring. You hear stories, some true, some embellished by hope, of those who made it, who found freedom in the untamed wild. But you also hear the grim tales of those who were caught, the horrific punishments, the public displays of their broken bodies, meant to crush any glimmer of hope in others. The decision to run is a terrifying gamble, a choice between certain misery and probable death. Even in your moments of deepest despair, a flicker of something persists. Perhaps it is the memory of your ancestors, their strength flowing through your veins. Perhaps it is the shared glances of solidarity with others. Perhaps it is the stubborn refusal of your spirit to completely surrender, to be utterly extinguished. But it is a tiny flame, constantly threatened by the overwhelming winds of oppression. The calendar year turns. Christmas, Easter. These Christian holidays are observed on the plantation, but they offer little true respite. They might bring a slightly larger ration of food, a brief cessation of labor, but they are also marked by forced festivities, by the continued presence of your oppressors. There is no genuine joy, only a brief, tense interlude before the relentless grind resumes. You see the sugar, piled high, being loaded onto ships bound for distant lands. You understand dimly that your suffering fuels the sweet desires of people you will never know in places you can barely imagine. Your blood, your sweat, your very life force is transmuted into this glittering, crystalline commodity, bringing wealth and pleasure to others while bringing only pain and death to you. This knowledge of being a mere cog in a vast, brutal machine is a bitter pill to swallow. The prospect of surviving, of truly living beyond this nightmare seems increasingly remote. Your body is weakening, your spirit is weary. The days stretch endlessly, each one a test of endurance. You are existing on the precipice, holding on with a desperate grip, knowing that any moment, any misstep, any illness could send you spiraling into the abyss. This is the truth of life as an enslaved person in 1791 Jamaica. A constant struggle against an overwhelming force determined to break you, body and soul. The second year of your enslavement begins, a chilling marker of how long you have endured. The initial shock has long worn off, replaced by a deep-seated weariness that settles in your bones. You are no longer new, but have been assimilated, or rather brutally initiated, into the plantation's grim routine. Your body is leaner, scarred, and perpetually tired, but it still moves, still obeys. The concept of time has shifted. Days blur into weeks, marked only by the rising and setting of the sun, the shift from planting to harvesting, the rhythm of the sugar production. The past, your true past, feels increasingly distant, a faint echo from another lifetime. The future is an unimaginable void, stretching before you with no discernible end. All that exists is the brutal, immediate present. You have learned to observe, to listen, to decipher the unwritten rules of survival. You understand the subtle variations in the overseer's mood, the shifts in the driver's temperament. You know which fields are hardest to work, which corners offer a momentary shadow, which plant roots can be secretly chewed for a hint of moisture. These small pieces of knowledge are not power, but they are tools, fragments of control in a life utterly devoid of it. The social fabric of the enslaved community, though fractured by violence and fear, has also revealed its strengths. You see how people subtly support each other, a whispered warning, a shared piece of a meager meal, a moment of silent solidarity during a punishment. These acts, often unseen by the white masters, are the lifeblood of resilience, tiny sparks of defiance that prevent total annihilation of the spirit. You notice how some have created family units, however fragile, amidst the chaos. A man and a woman, stolen from different lands, might forge a bond, comforting each other in the darkness of their huts. Children, against all odds, find moments of play, their laughter, however brief, a defiant splash of joy in the surrounding despair. You witness the fierce love of mothers for their children, a love that persists despite the constant threat of separation, a love that fuels an incredible strength. But the constant threat of violence never recedes. The whip is a daily reality, its sound echoing across the fields. You see people flayed for minor transgressions, for insufficient work, for simply looking away. The bodies of the punished are often left on display, a grotesque warning. The arbitrary nature of the violence is perhaps its most terrifying aspect. You can never truly feel safe, never truly relax. Any moment, any misplaced word or action could lead to unspeakable pain. Disease remains a relentless predator. Fevers come and go, leaving you weaker each time. The crude medical treatments, if any, are often ineffective. You see the signs of scurvy, of dysentery, of respiratory illnesses, all exacerbated by malnutrition and exhaustion. The death rate among enslaved people, especially the newly arrived, is astonishingly high. You understand that your survival, day by day, is a matter of immense fortune, a cruel lottery where the odds are stacked against you. The food, still meager, continues to take its toll. Your body is starved of essential nutrients. You crave meat, fresh vegetables, anything that could truly nourish you. The provision ground, your small plot of land, is your only hope for augmenting your diet. But after a full day in the cane fields, digging and planting feels like an impossible burden. Sometimes you might try to hunt small game or gather wild fruits, risking punishment if caught, but the hunger drives you. The sugar mill operates day and night during the harvest, its massive gears grinding, its cauldrons boiling, filling the air with a sickly sweet steam. You might be assigned to work there, a new level of danger. The risk of crushing injuries, of scalding from the boiling vats of sugar, of limbs caught in the machinery, is terrifyingly high. The air in the mill is hot, humid, and thick with the smell of molasses, and the screams of those caught in the machinery are not uncommon. The nights are still a struggle. The silence can be as oppressive as the noise of the day, broken only by the chirping of insects, the rustle of leaves, or the distant wail of someone in distress. Your dreams are often tormented, filled with fragmented memories of home, or the raw, immediate terrors of the plantation. True rest, deep restorative sleep, remains elusive. You hear the whispers of maroons, the escaped communities in the interior, with increasing clarity. Their legends of fierce independence, of successful resistance, are a potent antidote to the crushing despair of plantation life. Some enslaved people attempt to run, a desperate act of courage. You see the search parties, the dogs, the determination of the masters to recapture their property. And you see the gruesome results of failure. The fear of capture is a powerful deterrent, but the desire for freedom, however distant, however dangerous, begins to take root in your heart. The masters, you observe, live in a world of stark contrast. Their great houses stand aloof, symbols of their wealth and power, built on the backs of your suffering. You see their fine clothes, their lavish meals, their casual cruelty. They speak of their property, of their profits, of the need to maintain order, as if you are not human beings with souls, but mere instruments of their prosperity. This stark inequality, this profound injustice, burns within you. A quiet, simmering rage that you must keep hidden, deeply buried. You learn to perform tasks beyond the cane field. Perhaps you are sent to cut wood, to carry water, to assist in the sugar mill, or even to tend to the master's horses. Each task brings its own dangers, its own forms of exhaustion. There is no escape from labor, only a shift in its form. Your body, despite its fatigue, grows stronger, more resilient, yet it is a strength forged in suffering, not in freedom. The loss of your culture, your traditions, is a constant, gnawing pain. You try to remember the songs, the stories, the dances of your people. Sometimes, in the deep darkness of the night, you might hum a forgotten melody or whisper a prayer in your mother tongue, a desperate attempt to hold on to the essence of who you are. But the constant pressure to conform, to speak the master's language, to forget your past, is immense. You witness the sale of people from your plantation, often without warning. A child taken from a mother, a husband from a wife, the screams, the pleas, the utter heartbreak are a powerful demonstration of your utter powerlessness. It is a reminder that you are not just a laborer, but a commodity, to be bought, sold, and traded at will. The fear of being separated from any small connections you have made is a constant anxiety. As the second year grinds on, you understand, with chilling clarity, why so many do not survive. It is not just the physical brutality, the unrelenting labor, or the constant threat of violence. It is the insidious, soul-crushing weight of dehumanization, the systematic stripping away of dignity, hope, and self-worth. It is the constant fear, the pervasive hunger, the relentless march of disease. To survive, you must become incredibly resilient, adapting in ways you never thought possible, clinging to the smallest glimmers of light, and desperately guarding the fragile spark of your own humanity. But the cost is immense, and the shadows are long. The third year brings a deeper understanding of the plantation's seasons, its brutal rhythms. You are now an old hand, though you are still young in years, your body already bearing the marks of a lifetime's worth of suffering. The cane cycles, planting, weeding, harvesting, milling. Each phase demands a different kind of back-breaking labor, a new set of dangers. You have learned to anticipate. You know the best time to avoid the overseer's eye, the subtle shifts in the wind that carry the scent of rain or the distant sound of warning. Your movements in the field are now efficient, almost automatic, but the exhaustion remains, a chronic ache that never fully dissipates. Your mind, too, has learned to adapt, to float above the pain, to seek small moments of internal escape. The relationships within the enslaved community have deepened, becoming more nuanced. You recognize the subtle language of glances, of hushed whispers, of shared understanding that transcends words. You are part of a network, however informal, of resilience. You see the elders, their bodies frail but their spirits often remarkably strong, holding on to fragments of African traditions, weaving them into the new, harsh reality of this land. They share stories, sometimes in hushed tones, of a world before, keeping the memory of freedom alive. The provision grounds, your small plots of land, have become a vital lifeline. You spend your precious Sunday hours tilling the soil, planting yams, plantains, callaloo, corn. This is your small act of creation, your tiny domain where for a few hours you have agency. The food you grow is often the only thing that truly sustains you, providing essential nutrients that the plantation rations lack. You learn the wisdom of the earth, the cycles of growth, finding a quiet comfort in its predictability, a stark contrast to the unpredictable violence of your daily life. However, the threat of scarcity is constant. A drought, a flood, a pest infestation can wipe out your crops, plunging you back into the abyss of deeper hunger. You learn to share, to barter, to rely on the community during these times, for to starve alone is a terrifying prospect. Disease continues to take its toll. You see familiar faces disappear, their bodies succumbing to fevers, to dysentery, to the cumulative effects of malnutrition and overwork. The burial ground, a desolate place on the edge of the plantation, grows steadily. Each new mound is a reminder of your own vulnerability, a testament to the fact that survival, even for those who seem strong, is a precarious dance with death. The brief, quiet funerals, often held by moonlight, are small acts of defiance, honoring those lost, keeping their memory alive when the masters would prefer them forgotten. The system is designed to break family ties. Spouses are sold, children are taken. You witness the raw, screaming grief, the utter despair of those left behind. The fear of this separation gnaws at your heart, making deep emotional attachments a terrifying risk. Yet love persists, stubbornly, defiantly, in the quiet bonds formed between partners, between parents and children, between chosen kin. These bonds are your fragile shield and your greatest vulnerability. You are acutely aware of the power dynamics. The overseers, the drivers, the masters, they are the arbiters of your life and death. You learn to read their moods, to anticipate their commands, to make yourself as inconspicuous as possible. But sometimes, despite your best efforts, you are singled out for a perceived insult, a moment of slowness, or simply because you are there. The lash descends, sharp, burning, leaving scars that will never fade, marks of your forced servitude. The sugar mill, with its roaring furnaces and churning machinery, is a place of ceaseless labor and extreme danger. If you are assigned to work there, the heat is stifling, the air thick with the sickly sweet smell of molasses and the acrid stench of sweat and fear. Hands are caught, limbs crushed, bodies scalded by boiling sugar. The screams are frequent, horrifying. You learn to move with extreme caution, your senses heightened, constantly aware of the whirling blades, the boiling vats. The threat of sexual violence against women is a pervasive terror. It is not spoken of openly, but it is understood, an unspoken horror that hangs in the air. You witness the quiet suffering, the subtle ways women try to protect themselves, the chilling powerlessness. The bodies of enslaved women are not their own, but property to be used and discarded. As you near the end of your third year, the whispers of resistance grow louder. The stories of the Maroons are no longer just legends, they are a beacon of desperate hope. You hear tales of plantations where enslaved people rose up, though often brutally suppressed. The desire for freedom, for dignity, for an end to this torment becomes a burning ember within you. It is a dangerous desire, one that must be carefully guarded, but it is also the last bastion of your spirit. You begin to recognize the subtle acts of sabotage, a broken tool, a delayed task, a poorly executed job. These are not open acts of rebellion, but quiet forms of resistance, ways to disrupt the master's profit, to assert a tiny measure of control. They are dangerous and punishment is swift if discovered, but the collective impact is a slow, steady erosion of the plantation's efficiency. The prospect of survival is not about comfort or happiness, it is about sheer endurance. It is about waking up each day and facing the sun, knowing it brings another day of suffering. It is about pushing your body beyond its limits, day after day, year after year. It is about enduring the hunger, the disease, the violence, the constant threat of loss. To survive, you must find a way to numb yourself to the deepest horrors, while simultaneously holding onto a spark of humanity. You learn to cry silently, to grieve internally, to rage without outward expression. Your dreams are often your only true escape, though even they can be haunted by the realities of your waking life. The world outside the plantation remains largely unknown to you, but you hear snippets of news, the whispers of rebellion in Haiti, the growing abolitionist movement in England. These distant events, though they feel far removed from your daily struggle, carry a faint echo of hope, a suggestion that perhaps, just perhaps, this nightmare will not last forever. But for now, you are here, in Jamaica, in 1791, and survival is a testament to an unimaginable fortitude, a desperate clinging to life amidst a system designed to extinguish it. The fourth year, and then the fifth, settle upon you with the oppressive weight of a stone. Your body, surprisingly, has not broken entirely, but it is a landscape of scars, aches, and a pervasive fatigue that no amount of sleep can truly alleviate. You are part of the landscape now, another enduring feature of the brutal machinery that is the sugar plantation. Your sense of self has been profoundly altered. The person you were, the child of a free land, feels like a ghost, a memory that flickers on the edge of your consciousness, often too painful to fully embrace. You move with a quiet efficiency, born of endless repetition, your actions driven by the instinct for survival. Your spirit, though battered, has learned a grim resilience, a stubborn refusal to utterly collapse. The plantation's rhythm is deeply ingrained in you. You know the exact moment the sun will touch the horizon, signaling the start of another ceaseless day. You can judge the ripeness of the cane by its scent, the subtle change in the air. The sounds of the mill, once alien and terrifying, are now just part of the background hum of your existence. The bonds within the enslaved community are your most vital, yet fragile shield. You share whispers of hope, of despair, of anger in the dark corners of the huts, or while toiling in the fields, your backs to the overseer. These are moments of shared humanity, small acts of resistance against the constant dehumanization. You have learned to read the subtle cues of solidarity, a shared glance, a hand briefly touching your arm, a quiet word of comfort. The older enslaved people, those who have survived decades, become living libraries of knowledge. They hold on to African traditions, languages, and spiritual beliefs, subtly passing them down, weaving them into the fabric of daily life. You learn the medicinal properties of local plants, the art of storytelling, the quiet defiance of spiritual practices that honor your ancestors, not the white man's God. These practices are dangerous, for they represent a connection to a world outside the master's control, but they are also profoundly nourishing to your spirit. Hunger is still a constant companion, but you have become adept at maximizing your provision ground, at supplementing your diet with wild edibles, at bartering small favors for extra food. You know the best places to find wild yams, to set traps for small game, to pick ripening fruits from the edges of the bush. Every calorie is a victory, every full stomach a brief, fleeting moment of triumph. The violence, though expected, still retains its power to shock. You witness floggings that leave bodies mangled, spirits broken. You see the branding irons, the iron collars, the horrific devices used to punish and control. The arbitrary nature of the punishment, a master's bad mood, a perceived slight, keeps you in a constant state of hypervigilance. You learn to suppress your emotions, to keep your face blank, to make yourself small, invisible. The disease continues its grim harvest. Yellow fever, dysentery, malaria, they sweep through the quarters, taking the old and the young without mercy. You have seen too many succumb, their bodies wasted, their eyes hollow. You nurse others when you can, sharing what little knowledge you have, but often it is not enough. The high mortality rate on the sugar plantations is a brutal testament to the system's inherent lethality. The greatest terror, perhaps, remains the casual cruelty of separation. Children sold from their mothers, husbands from wives, brothers from sisters. The heartbreak is immense, a wound that never truly heals. You learn to guard your heart, to not form attachments too deep, because the pain of loss is a luxury you cannot afford. Yet paradoxically, you yearn for connection, for the comfort of another human touch, another shared smile. The sounds of rebellion from Haiti, now a full-blown revolution, reach you as faint tremors carried on the winds of rumor. These whispers are both terrifying and exhilarating. They speak of enslaved people rising up, fighting for their freedom, burning the plantations, taking revenge on their oppressors. The white masters grow more paranoid, their fear making them even more brutal. Patrols are increased, punishments become harsher, the vigilance more intense. But the idea, the intoxicating possibility of freedom, has been sown in your heart. You understand the immense danger of such thoughts. To speak them aloud, to even hint at them, is to invite a swift and agonizing death. Yet, they persist, a quiet fire beneath the surface of your stoicism. You observe the masters, their anxieties, their desperate attempts to maintain control, and you see cracks in their edifice of power. Your body is a testament to endurance, a living monument to suffering. Your hands are gnarled, your back permanently stooped, your vision perhaps blurred from constant sun and strain. But your spirit, though deeply scarred, has found a way to persist. It is a quiet, internal defiance, a refusal to be utterly extinguished. You survive by finding moments of beauty in the smallest things, the flight of a bird, the cool touch of night air on your skin, a shared, silent moment of understanding with a fellow sufferer. The prospect of outright escape, of joining the Maroons, remains a terrifying but ever-present possibility. You hear stories of those who made it, living free, fiercely defending their independence in the mountains. You also know the brutal consequences of capture. The decision to run is a profound one, a gamble of life against certain continued torment. It is a choice that hangs in the back of your mind, a desperate hope, against overwhelming odds. To survive 5 years on a sugar plantation in 1791, Jamaica is not merely an achievement. It is a miracle forged in blood, sweat, and tears. It means you have endured unimaginable pain, witnessed unspeakable horrors, and faced death countless times. It means your spirit, however bruised, has found a way to cling to life, to hope, to a quiet, stubborn defiance that refuses to be completely broken. But the cost of this survival is immense, leaving indelible marks on your body and soul, forever altering the person you once were. You exist, but the question of truly living, of finding peace, remains an elusive dream, far beyond the reach of this brutal, sugar-soaked island. The 6th year, then the 7th and 8th, blur into a relentless continuum of labor and fear. You are no longer counting in discrete units of time, but in cycles of planting and harvest, in the endless procession of sunrises and sunsets. Your body is a testament to survival, toughened by unimaginable hardship, but bearing the indelible marks of chronic pain and profound exhaustion. The youthful elasticity of your early days has been replaced by a hardened stoicism, a weariness that permeates every muscle, every bone. You have seen so many come and go. The new arrivals, their eyes wide with fear and confusion, remind you of your own terrifying beginning. You observe their struggles, their initial attempts at defiance, often brutally crushed. Sometimes a flicker of empathy passes through you, a memory of that raw vulnerability. But too often, you must harden yourself, for witnessing too much pain, feeling too deeply, is a luxury you cannot afford in this merciless existence. The hierarchy within the enslaved community has become clearer. There are the house servants, sometimes envied for their lighter labor, but also distrusted for their proximity to the masters. There are the skilled laborers, carpenters, blacksmiths, coopers, who might earn slightly better rations or a fleeting moment of respect, though they are still property. And then there are the field hands, the cane cutters like you, the vast majority, whose lives are a continuous cycle of brutal, unceasing toil. You understand your place at the bottom of a cruel pyramid, supporting the wealth of others with your very life force. The provision ground has become your sanctuary, your small piece of earth where you can cultivate not just food, but a semblance of self-sufficiency. You work it with a quiet dedication, tending to your yams and plantains as if they were your own children. The earth responds, offering its bounty, and for a few hours on Sundays, you reclaim a fraction of your dignity, of your innate human desire to create and nurture. The taste of your own grown food, however simple, is infinitely sweeter than the meager plantation rations. You witness the constant, terrifying presence of the overseer and his drivers. Their authority is absolute, their cruelty often arbitrary. The whip remains a common tool, its crack a constant reminder of who holds power. You see the fresh scars on the backs of others, hear the muffled cries in the night, and you learn again and again to keep your head down, your eyes averted, your voice silent. To attract attention is to invite pain. The diseases continue their relentless sweep through the quarters. Malaria still brings its shaking fevers, dysentery, its debilitating weakness. You see mothers burying their children, their silent grief a heavy shroud over the community. The fear of sickness is pervasive, for a prolonged illness means inability to work, and inability to work means severe punishment or abandonment to die. The remedies you and others know are often insufficient, a desperate struggle against forces far too powerful. The emotional toll is perhaps the heaviest burden. The constant, gnawing anxiety, the pervasive fear, the repeated trauma of witnessing brutal violence, it all grinds away at your spirit. You learn to compartmentalize, to wall off the deepest pain, for to feel it all, every single moment, would be to invite madness. You become an expert in internalizing your suffering, presenting a blank, unreadable face to the world, while inside a storm rages. The whispers from Haiti grow stronger, no longer just rumors, but confirmed reports of a successful revolution. The enslaved people there, led by Toussaint Louverture, have fought for and won their freedom. This news, though thrilling, also heightens the paranoia of the Jamaican masters. They tighten security, increase patrols, and become even more brutal in their attempts to suppress any hint of rebellion. The fear of a similar uprising in Jamaica makes them desperate, and their desperation translates into more suffering for you. You hear of maroon communities, larger now, more organized, deep in the inaccessible mountains of Jamaica. They are symbols of defiance, communities of free black people who have carved out a life of independence. The thought of reaching them, of tasting true freedom, is a powerful, dangerous dream. But the journey is treacherous, filled with wild animals, unforgiving terrain, and the constant threat of pursuit by ruthless slave catchers and their dogs. You have learned the subtle art of resistance, a tool that breaks just at the right moment, a task performed just slowly enough to impact production, but not so slowly as to invite the whip. A knowing glance shared with another, a silent act of solidarity. These are not grand rebellions, but small defiant acts that assert a sliver of your humanity, a quiet refusal to be completely broken. The planter's world, though seemingly stable, shows cracks. Their endless parties, their casual extravagance, are fueled by your suffering. But you also see their anxiety, their fear of revolt, their desperate attempts to maintain control. They live in constant fear of the very people they oppress, and this fear makes them unpredictable, often crueler. The memories of your homeland are fading, replaced by the grim realities of this island. The faces of your family are harder to recall, their voices fainter. This loss, this forced forgetting, is a profound sorrow. You try to hold on to fragments of your language, your customs, whispering them in the dark, teaching them to children when you dare. These are acts of cultural survival, preserving a heritage that the system strives to erase. Years turn into a decade. You have survived 10 years on a sugar plantation in 1791 Jamaica. This is an almost impossible feat. Many of those who arrived with you, or before you, are gone, their bodies interred in unmarked graves. You are a living testament to endurance, to the astonishing capacity of the human spirit to withstand profound suffering. Your body is a map of your journey, the scars from the lash, the gnarled joints from endless labor, the subtle tremor in your hands from perpetual exhaustion. Your eyes hold a depth of sorrow and wisdom that belies your age. You have seen horrors that would break others, felt pain that would shatter lesser souls, yet you persist. The question of survival is no longer about days or weeks, but about the very definition of life. Are you truly living or merely existing? You breathe, you work, you eat, you sleep, but the essence of personhood, of freedom, of choice remains brutally denied. Yet within you there is a stubborn ember. It is not hope in the sense of immediate liberation, but a deeper, more primal will to persist. It is the legacy of your ancestors, the silent strength passed down through generations. It is the small acts of kindness shared with others, the fleeting moments of connection that remind you of your shared humanity. You look at the vast expanse of the cane fields, stretching endlessly under the Jamaican sun. You know, with chilling certainty, that you would not have survived this place if you were still the person you were when you arrived. You have been forged in this crucible of suffering, stripped bare, and rebuilt into something stronger, harder, and infinitely more resilient. But the scars, both visible and invisible, will remain with you forever. As you lie in your hut, the familiar sounds of the night, the chirping of crickets, the rustle of leaves, the distant baying of a hound, create a somber lullaby. Your body aches, your mind is weary, but you are here, you have endured. And in that endurance, in that quiet, stubborn refusal to yield, lies a profound, heartbreaking victory. The second decade of your enslavement begins, a marker that few of your shipmates, or even those born into bondage, ever reach. You are now a grizzled veteran of the cane fields, your body a testament to unimaginable resilience, a living map of scars, hardened muscles, and chronic pain. The lines on your face tell stories of endless days under the brutal sun, of nights haunted by fear and sorrow. Your hair, once black and lustrous, might be streaked with gray, a stark contrast, to the youthful strength you possessed when first dragged ashore. Your hands are gnarled, fingers bent from years of wielding the machete and endless toil. Your gait is perhaps slower, your back perpetually aching, but your movements are precise, honed by decades of forced labor. You have seen generations come and go. Children you knew as infants are now young adults, entering the same brutal cycle you have endured. You have watched beloved faces disappear, sold away to distant plantations, or claimed by the rampant diseases. The grief is a heavy blanket you have learned to wear, a constant companion that no tears can fully wash away. You have learned to say goodbye silently, to internalize the pain, for outward expressions of sorrow are often seen as weakness, or worse, defiance. The hierarchy on the plantation has shifted, if subtly. Perhaps you have earned a grudging respect from some of the drivers, your endurance a silent challenge to their power. You might be assigned tasks that require skill or experience, a recognition, however slight, of your knowledge of the land, of the sugar-making process. But this comes with no true freedom, only a different kind of burden. Your provision ground is now a small, well-tended farm, a testament to your quiet rebellion against hunger. You know every contour of the soil, every plant's needs. The food you coax from the earth sustains not just your body, but your spirit. You might share your surplus with those less fortunate, building an unspoken network of reciprocity, a silent act of defiance against the system designed to isolate and dehumanize. The acts of resistance have evolved, becoming more sophisticated, more ingrained in the daily fabric of life. Slowdowns, subtle sabotage of tools, feigned illness, whispered acts of rebellion, clandestine meetings under the cloak of night. These are the ways in which you and others assert your humanity, chipping away at the master's profits, disrupting the smooth flow of the sugar machine. The news from Haiti, though often distorted by fear and propaganda, serves as a constant burning ember of hope, a powerful reminder that freedom, however distant, is possible. The spiritual life of the enslaved community has deepened, becoming a powerful source of solace and resistance. You participate in clandestine ceremonies, honoring ancestors, calling upon spirits, finding strength and communion in practices that are utterly outside the white man's control. The drums beat softly in the night, a heartbeat of defiance, a connection to a homeland that lives on in memory and spirit. These gatherings are dangerous, but they are essential, recharging your spirit, reminding you of who you truly are. The white world, though still overwhelmingly powerful, sometimes shows cracks. You hear murmurs of financial troubles among the planters, of debts, of falling sugar prices. The abolitionist movement in England gains momentum, its distant echoes reaching your ears, fueling a fragile, dangerous hope. The masters become more paranoid, more fearful, their grip tightening, but also, at times, revealing their own anxieties. The violence, though constant, no longer surprises you. You have witnessed every conceivable form of brutality, and your response has become a hardened shell. You do not flinch, you do not cry out, not outwardly. But the scars, physical and emotional, are deep. You carry the trauma within you, a silent weight that defines your existence. Your memories of Africa are now fragmented, dreamlike. They are cherished fragments, a certain smell, a melody, the feeling of freedom. You try to pass on what you remember to the younger generation, to keep the lineage of your culture alive, to connect them to a past beyond this plantation. This act of remembering and teaching is an act of profound resistance, ensuring that the legacy of your people will not be entirely erased. The thought of escape is no longer a desperate, impulsive urge, but a calculated, dangerous possibility. You know the terrain, the hiding places, the risks. You have heard of the successes and the failures of those who ran. The decision to attempt to reach the Maroons is a heavy one, weighed against the risks of capture and the fragile bonds you have forged on the plantation. As you stand in the cane field, your machete moving with practiced ease, you reflect on the sheer improbability of your survival. You have faced overwhelming odds, endured unspeakable suffering, and witnessed countless horrors. Your body is weary, your spirit scarred, but you are still here. This continued existence, this stubborn refusal to die, is a powerful statement. You are no longer the frightened newcomer. You are a survivor, a witness, a keeper of memory. The years have stripped you bare, leaving only the essential core of your being. And in that core, there is an indomitable will, a quiet strength that has defied a system designed to destroy you. You are a living testament to the human spirit's capacity for endurance, a silent monument to the millions who did not survive, whose stories are echoed in your own continued painful existence on this sugar-soaked land. The years continue their relentless march, blurring into a tapestry of toil, grief, and quiet, stubborn defiance. A new generation of masters may have taken over the plantation, perhaps a son inheriting his father's cruel empire. But for you, the fundamental realities remain unchanged. The sun still beats down, the cane still demands cutting, and freedom remains an elusive dream. You are now well into your third decade of enslavement, a rarity, a living testament to the sheer force of will required to simply exist in this brutal world. Your body carries the weight of these decades. Every joint aches, every muscle protests. Your hands are permanently gnarled, your skin deeply furrowed by the sun and the countless nicks and cuts of the cane fields. You move with a slow, deliberate rhythm, conserving energy, knowing that every ounce of strength must be carefully managed. The exhaustion is not just physical, it is a deep, bone-weary fatigue that settles in your very soul. You have witnessed unspeakable horrors, the casual brutality, the systemic dehumanization. You have seen loved ones sold away, their screams echoing in your memory. You have buried countless friends and family members, their lives cut short by disease, overwork, or the whip. Each loss leaves a fresh scar on your spirit, yet you continue to breathe, to move, to endure. Your role in the community has subtly shifted. You are now an elder, a keeper of memory, a repository of resilience. Younger enslaved people look to you, perhaps not with words, but with their eyes, seeking understanding, a quiet comfort, a glimpse of the strength that has allowed you to survive. You pass on what you know, the subtle art of cultivating the provision ground, the hidden pathways through the bush, the wisdom of medicinal plants, the fragmented stories and songs of your homeland. These acts of transmission are acts of rebellion, preserving a culture that the masters seek to erase. Your provision ground has become your small kingdom, a testament to your quiet power. The food you grow sustains you, and perhaps others. You trade knowledge, seeds, and small surpluses with trusted neighbors, strengthening the informal networks of solidarity that are vital for survival. This land, though not truly yours, is where you reclaim a sliver of agency, where you nurture life against a backdrop of death. The threat of violence, while constant, now evokes a different response within you. The sharp fear of your youth has been replaced by a grim resignation, and at times a quiet, simmering defiance. You have seen enough to know that the whip cannot break your spirit entirely, though it can shatter your body. You have learned to endure the pain, to retreat into an inner space where the lash cannot reach. Disease remains a relentless enemy. Your body, weakened by years of malnutrition and labor, is more susceptible to fevers and infections. You witness the continued heartbreaking cycle of illness and death, particularly among the children. You do what you can, offering traditional remedies, quiet prayers, and what little comfort you possess. Each death is a reminder of the fragility of life under this brutal system and the sheer randomness of who survives. The news from Haiti, from the free Black Republic, still filters in, though carefully controlled by the fearful masters. It is a powerful, dangerous idea that enslaved people can rise up, defeat their oppressors, and forge their own freedom. The planters in Jamaica live in constant paranoia, tightening their grip, but their fear also betrays their vulnerability. You sense a shift, a growing instability in the very foundations of their power. The desire for freedom, for escape, has never left you. It is a quiet ember that glows steadily within your heart. You know the mountain paths, the risks, the brutal consequences of capture, but you also know the stories of the Maroons, their fierce independence, their vibrant communities forged in the heart of the wilderness. The possibility, however remote, sustains you. You have witnessed countless acts of resistance, both overt and subtle. The runaway, the poison in the master's food, the whispered plot, the collective slowdown in the fields. Some failed, leading to horrific retribution. Others succeeded, tiny victories in a war of attrition. You understand that resistance takes many forms and that simply surviving, day after day, is a profound act of defiance in itself. Your spiritual life is your anchor. The traditional beliefs, the ancestral connections, the clandestine gatherings, the rhythms of the drum, these are the ways you keep your soul alive. They are a connection to a power beyond the overseer's whip, a source of strength that cannot be taken from you. In these moments, surrounded by others who share your plight, you find a deep sense of community, of belonging, of unwavering identity. The planters, in their great houses, live lives of extravagant leisure, oblivious to the immense suffering that sustains their wealth. You see their opulence, their casual cruelty, and the profound injustice of it all. They are caught in their own web of fear and greed, desperately clinging to a system that is, perhaps, beginning to crumble around them. As another day ends, and you make your slow, painful way back to the hut, the darkness offers a brief reprieve. You lie on your rough mat, your body aching, your mind weary. You remember your youth, your homeland, the freedom you once knew. It seems like a dream now, almost too distant to be real. But you are here. You have survived. You have outlasted many, endured beyond imagining. Your continued existence is a powerful testament, a silent cry of defiance against a system designed to crush you. The physical toll is immense, the emotional scars deep and pervasive. But within you, a stubborn flame of resilience, a quiet dignity still burns. You are a survivor, a witness, a link in the unbreakable chain of your people's endurance.